Hi, this is Jim Cranston from 7 Every Minute and 7everyminute.com, the podcast and website by, for, and about baby boomers. Tonight's kind of personally kind of a low energy night. I apologize. I'll explain why in a few minutes. A couple seconds. A few things happened recently that kind of gave me pause. Tonight I'm just going to be sharing a few thoughts and then hopefully some things you'll find some of them interesting and be referencing another book. But basically what happened is a really nice church friend of mine passed away quite unexpectedly on Friday night. And so that was extremely difficult. And, people pass away all the time, but she was, young compared to us. Certainly she was very young. And she and her husband were always extremely nice to me. And so it was really difficult for me. But then after that, so I'm kind of thinking about that. And so then yesterday, I'm reading, and it turns out right after I left Podcast Movement 22, I found out that they were busy sending these tweets and other social media posts out apologizing for letting a well-known conservative celebrity into the venue. And frankly, I was shocked at their behavior, right? I mean, as almost always, right, kind of the woke left is tolerant of basically anyone who agrees with them. And for others, there's no lower limits. And so I was really disappointed to find out about that because podcasting, of all places, of all situations, of all groups of people who I associate with, is an area where open discussion and tolerance really is supposed to be the norm, and clearly that's no longer the case. And so it was really disappointing. So there was more that went on in the week, but you kind of get the idea, right? But that kind of plays into our whole philosophy, doesn't it? You didn't think you're going to get off easy, did you? Because what's our philosophy is that, sometimes life is great, but sometimes it isn't. But we should never take our eyes off our goals. Because I was going to cancel my ticket to next year's Podcast Movement 23, and thought about it. And, I was going to have a pretty strong case, kind of like, if I'm not welcome there, then clearly you've misrepresented the venue, A, and so I want my money back. I don't care that it's non-refundable, non-cancelable. You lied to me, so I want my money back. But instead, I decided that it's really going back again. That's the proper form to reach out and to emphasize that tolerance isn't some catchphrase. It's really a way of life, and it really should apply equally to everybody. Most especially, it should apply to those who you do not agree with. It's easy to be tolerant or open or whatever, supportive of people you do agree with, but it takes real tolerance and real patience to sit and discuss and listen with people who you don't agree with. Right? There are endless sayings about how easy it is to do things that you agree with, but the challenge is when you have to deal with dissenting opinion. Essentially, you either have to walk the walk or else the talk is just empty talk. It's nothing. So, and I've talked before, there's a friend of mine, Doug, who lives near me, and he and I are absolute polar ends of political spectrum and everything, but we're good friends. And it's because we're both older and we both remember the way things were. And the way things were are when you had dissenting opinions and you were friends with somebody and you found out you had dissenting opinions, you didn't walk away from this and say, oh, I'm not going to be your friend anymore. You sat down and you talked about it. And it doesn't mean you convinced the other person to your side, but both of you had to think and both of you had to work to defend your arguments. When you do that, that makes you realize the weaknesses in your arguments. It makes you realize the perspective of the other person. You gain an empathy for their side, and typically they'll gain an empathy towards your viewpoint. Again, it doesn't mean everybody walks away agreeing with each other and singing Kumbaya and having a wonderful time, but you learn to respect the other person's opinion and to understand why they feel how they do and how that affects your life. So, in general, like I mentioned a couple of days ago, the last week, I think, that I started reading, where are we? There we are. Finally, Tools of Titans by Tim Ferriss. Love Tim Ferriss, love the book. And so what I decided tonight, mostly because I was having a hard time keeping a good perspective on things, I went through the book and just found some quotes that caught my eye. And so I wanted to share those with you. Thank you, Tim, for writing my podcast tonight. I do appreciate your efforts. And so I'm just going to grab a couple and read the quote and pause a second and then give you a moment to think about it. And I think it's kind of important because in today's society, so much of the things are just sound bites and people say things like it happened in Podcast Movement. somebody said something, then somebody else had to say something, and everybody piled on, and they didn't listen to what they were saying, that they were taking half the people in attendance and saying, you don't deserve to be here. And that's not what podcasting is supposed to be about. And that's certainly not what tolerance is supposed to be about. And so the way you change that is to think out loud, basically. And so from Coach Christopher Sommer, quality long-term results, this is the quote coming, I'm sorry, quote, quality long-term results require quality long-term focus. Impatience in dealing with frustration is the primary reason most people fail to achieve their goals, end quote. Sorry to botch that up a little bit, Coach Sommer. So, in the heat of the moment, we tend to forget our why and our reason, and when we forget, we get frustrated. So, like I said, right after I read about all the stuff that went on in Podcast Movement, I was angry, I was frustrated, I was disappointed, I was hurt. These are people I thought I could count on. And then I thought about it, I thought, what's my goal? My goal is to reach out to people and bring them together. Saying that I'm not going to go back doesn't help bring people together. Going out, actually, I'm probably going to get buttons made that say something like, tolerance begins when you disagree with somebody. And so I already have the ticket, so I'll probably go back next year, and I'll probably make a point of having difficult decisions. And I think by doing that, hopefully, more people will see that people with opposing opinions or dissenting opinions or just different opinions aren't scary, they're not bad, they're not horrible. Everyone wants the same thing, it's just we take different paths to get there. Our job always as people, and certainly if you want to reach out to other people and try and make life better, is to remember our long-term goals and always live towards our dreams. And hopefully our dreams include bringing the world together and getting more discussion going. So the next quote is from Tim Ferriss himself. Thank you, Tim. Quote, meditation allows me to step back and gain a witness perspective. I can step out of the washing machine and calmly look inside it, end quote. So that one really struck me because I happened to come across that one shortly after the whole episode with Podcast Movement and was thinking about it. And so often when we get wrapped up in things, we get, your basic tunnel vision, short-term near vision, and you lose sight of what it is we're trying to do. And so much like remembering our long-term goals and to stay focused on them, when you get all caught up in something, it's like being in a washing machine. Everything's topsy-turvy. Things you thought were true don't appear to be true, but you're not sure. There's dissenting opinions. All this stuff is happening all at once. Whether it's by meditation, taking a deep breath, just removing yourself from the situation and talking to nobody for 30 seconds, step back away from the fray, and then you can actually look at it and get a better perspective as to what's going on, form then some reasonable thoughts, and go back in from a reasonable perspective as opposed from a reactive or aggressive perspective. That one in particular really hit home with me because we get so caught up in the details, we miss the whole reason why we're doing things. From Tony Robbins, if you don't know Tony Robbins, you're a basic awesome person. All these people have none of them are perfect, but all of them have great characteristics that are really worth looking at. And one of the ones I've seen this before, but it was in Tools of Titans, so it really caught my eye again. Quote, life is always happening for us, not to us. It's our job to find out where the benefit is. If we do, life is magnificent, end quote. That's a really, really powerful statement. It's very easy if you, especially with the modern news and the modern way things are presented, even the weather is always presented as something that's happening to you. Oh, this brutal storm, the adjectives they come up with to describe things like weather are basically laughable sometimes. It's like the weather's just hanging out, waiting, plotting how to get you, which isn't the case at all. And so there was recent flooding in Rhode Island over the past day or two. And even here, we had about half as much rain as they did in Rhode Island. I went and measured the rain. We had 6 inches of rain in the past 24 hours. That's a lot. And so we could sit and say, oh, that weather, it was on Labor Day or ruined this, it was horrible. We talked about that. I just did a quick minute together on that same topic. But, the other way of looking at it is we can say, We were behind by inches, if not feet of rain. We really needed it. Would have been nice if it happened another time, but it didn't. It happened now, and a lot of goodness happened now. Probably a lot of crops will be saved for the fall. Maybe not as good as they would have been, but at least they'll be saved. A lot of the trees and plants have come back. It's amazing how fast nature recovers after a drought. So there was a lot of good. It's up for us to find the good in what's going on. And insofar as what happened to my friend with the unexpected passing away, is it terrible? Yes, it's very terrible. It leaves a tremendous hole in many people's lives. But the other way to look at it is, why is there that hole there? Because of all the good that she left behind, all the good that she brought to so many people, that she and her husband welcomed people into their lives, welcomed people into the family. And if you focus on that and realize, boy, isn't that a nice legacy to have, right? The situation was horrible, but what a legacy to leave behind. Just people think of you and they think good things. They think of, wow, I want to leave behind that kind of legacy. So I'll try and do the same sorts of things, to be accepting of people and to bring people joy and to include them in my life. So even in a bad situation like that, and I'm not telling you a lot of the story, it really was a very bad situation. You have to focus on the good. And if you focus on the good, you realize there's still a lot of good that can be pulled out of it to really help us through the situation and to realize the good that exists in life that can be found. And the perspective is always difficult, but it's especially difficult when things seem bad. And that's when it really pays to really try and keep a good perspective on things, because you'll always find bad things, you'll always find good things. And you don't want to say, oh, the bad things don't exist and put your head in the sand, but you want to keep all sorts of things in balance, because there's a lot of good things that go on in our lives generally. And we want to make sure we remember those as well as the things that are challenging. And then from Seth Godin, very simple one, it just says, send someone a thank you note today. That's the whole quote. Quote, send someone a thank you note today, end quote, right? Kind of sounds a little silly, but if you think about it, whether it's a real card or just picking up the phone and calling somebody or writing them a one-page note or whatever it is, bring some joy into someone else's life. It kind of goes with the meditation of happiness, where you just wish a stranger joy. You don't say anything to them, just wish them joy. This is kind of like the actualized version of it. Actually bring some joy into somebody's life. Just out of the blue, you're going along, you have 3 minutes, go, what am I going to do for 3 minutes before I leave? Write somebody a 3-sentence note. Hey, was thinking about you, just wanted to let you know things are going on pretty good here. Remember, I saw some ice cream. I was thinking about you from that time we went out to get garlic ice cream at the garlic festival, whatever it was, and shoot it off. Make them smile. Share your joy with someone else. And then finally, the last one from Maya Angelou, author, creator, actor, and this is a paraphrasing of something that she has said: creativity and love are infinite resources. The more you spend, the more you have. And so that whole concept is a really very, very powerful concept, because I oftentimes, how many times do we, or I personally, act as though we want to, kind of save ourselves for something else or something later or something more important or bigger or better or whatever. We have to remember that life gives back what we give to others. So by sharing our creativity or our love or whatever it is that we have, anything positive pays back huge rewards in every way. So don't be afraid to share what you have, to share it with others, because when you share it, you'll get it back in many ways. Some expected, like if you say hi to somebody, they'll probably say hi back, but in ways you don't completely may never expect. And so take the chance, share what you have with somebody else. When bad thing happens, keep perspective. When you want to just say, that's it, I'm quitting, I'm going to just withdraw and leave this group, think, no, that's not consistent with my overall goal. My overall goal is bigger than that. Take the chance, go back and try and share things with them, and to be truly inclusive and to bring people together rather than help drive them apart. So that's it for the evening. Thanks for stopping by. Stay healthy, care for others. I hope you found something interesting and something brought a little bit of joy into your life, and just some different thoughts than maybe you were thinking at the beginning of this. I know it's a little different than normal, and I apologize that it wasn't quite as cohesive as sometimes, but they're all along the same general thing. Remember, It all comes down, and as I say, the URL that we have, ukr7.com, ukr7.com, that's about sharing with the people of Ukraine. Things are still going on over there. They need our help, but a lot of people in the world need our help. Some are far away, some are close. Some of the situations are a little troubling. Some of them are devastating. Um, and all those people, keep them in your mind, keep them in your thoughts and your prayers. Try and act to bring people together, not drive them apart. And that's really kind of it for the evening. As always, be true to yourself, live the life that you love, and you're aligned with your true goals and your feelings. Thanks for stopping by. If you found something that was interesting or useful, please pass it along. If not, please drop me a comment as to what you'd like to hear. Please click the like button. Of course, that, lets me know that you're listening to what's going on and makes me want to do more of it. And if you enjoyed what we covered, have a great week. Thanks for visiting. Remember to live the life that you dreamed of, because that's the path to true contentment. Love and encouragement to everyone. See you next week on 7 Every Minute and 7everyminute.com. Thank you.